The Macedonian Kingdom and Alexander the Great, assumed to have been established around 800 BC, it was one of the most significant states of the Hellenistic period. Under the reign of Philip II, the kingdom rose to prominence, capturing Greek city-states and becoming the most powerful state in the region. His son, Alexander the Great, expanded the Macedonian Empire from the Balkans to Anatolia, and even to Central Asia and India, creating a vast empire beyond imagination. However, Alexander the Great died at the age of 32, and his territories were first divided among his generals and then completely destroyed by the Roman Empire in 146 BC. So, why did the mighty empire that subdued the Persians have such a short lifespan? To find out the answer to this question, watch the video to the end, and don't forget to comment and hit the like button to show your support. Around the 1200s BC, according to many historians, they set off from present-day colonies, and after a long and arduous migration, settled in the Balkans, forming kinship with the Greeks and creating a new race, the Macedonians. The Macedonian Kingdom, unified by the people, was founded by Conqueror in 808 BC. However, this new state was seen as a race that had not fully benefited from civilization, though not as barbaric as the Persians to the Greeks. The chill between the two peoples began to soften from around 700 BC as the Greeks established colonies along the coastlines, gradually advancing culture and civilization. As a result, the Macedonian Kingdom began to play a more significant role in the region's political events. However, in 550 BC, the Persians, under a Kilo ruler, first overthrew their king and then conquered all their lands. The Persians, who advanced quite densely and swiftly, first conquered the Babylonian Empire, then Egypt, before turning their direction back to the Balkans. Sensing the danger posed by them at this time, the Macedonians were helpless against the Persians' power. Indeed, during Darius's Scythian campaign, the Macedonian Kingdom had to accept Persian rule, but never surrendered its territories to Persian rule. In 480 BC, when the Persians attempted to conquer all of Greece by attacking Greek city-states, Macedonian king Alexander the First had to provide military support to Athens. The Persian invasion of Greece encountered strong resistance from all Greek city-states, led by King Leonidas of Sparta. However, after failing in this campaign and withdrawing to the east of Thrace, the Macedonian kingdom regained its independence under the rule of Alexander the First. Subsequently, Alexander the First decided to pursue a policy of politics in line with Macedonian interests in the internal wars among Greek states. Sometimes he supported Sparta, sometimes Athens, but always prioritized the interests of his own country. After the death of Alexander the First in 454 BC, the Macedonian kingdom began to gradually disintegrate. During the reign of his successor Perdiccas, the Macedonian tribes had almost completely privatized and had become merely allies to the king. In 434 BC, Perdiccas's younger brother Philip entered into a struggle for the throne with the support of Athens. Angered by this situation, Perdiccas responded by supporting rebellions in some Athenian cities. Eventually, Athens was forced to ally with Perdiccas due to the uprisings, while Perdiccas formed an alliance with Sparta during this period. In 431 BC, during the Peloponnesian War, Athens and Sparta faced each other, with Macedonian king Perdiccas supporting Sparta, thus contributing to the dissolution of Athens. However, as the war continued, Perdiccas died, and his son Archelaus became the new Macedonian king. Archelaus continued his father's politics, acting in accordance with his own interests in dealing with states such as Athens and Sparta. The war ended in 404 BC with the siege of Athens by Sparta and its surrender. The Macedonian kingdom emerged stronger from this war. 10 years later, the new king who ascended the throne restored Macedonia's unity with extensive changes in military and trade administration. His reforms, especially in the military field, including the construction of forts and the improvement of cavalry infantry equipment, led to better organization of the Macedonian army. However, when he died during a hunting expedition in 399 BC, a major civil war erupted in Macedonian territories. After about 7 years of internal turmoil, when Third Amyntas ascended the throne in 392 BC, unity in the country had completely collapsed. The new king immediately reconciled the feuding Macedonian tribes and restored unity in Macedonian territories. Then, in the renewed war among Greek states, he revitalized the kingdom's economy by selling timber to all parties involved. During his reign, Third Amyntas, who made significant contributions and re-established Macedonia, passed away in 359 BC. Upon his death, his one-year-old son, Fourth Amyntas, ascended to the throne. However, due to the young age of the new king, his uncle, Second Philip, seized power and declared himself the new king of Macedonia. With the ascension of Second Philip, conquests were immediately launched in the east, west, and north regions, and a significant portion of Thrace was quickly brought under control. Plans were made for larger-scale expeditions, and warlords from all corners of the country were gathered to centralize the command of the army. Subsequently, innovations were introduced in the army. Soldiers were equipped with 4-meter-long spears, and larger shields were replaced with smaller ones to achieve better balance. Additionally, Macedonia's traditional cavalry units were accelerated, and their defense and attack capabilities were enhanced. Following the establishment of the Hellenic League, Second Philip convened a meeting with the leading figures of the Greek region and invited all Greeks to a major expedition against the increasing Persian pressure. The purpose of the campaign was determined to be the liberation of the Greek communities in western Anatolia from bondage and to avenge the major expedition against Greece in 480 BC. With the aim of preparing for this campaign against the Persians, Second Philip dispatched an advance force of 10,000 troops to Anatolia in 336 BC. However, before witnessing the outcome of this campaign, he was assassinated at the wedding of his daughter Cleopatra in 336 BC. Alexander, who became the king of Macedonia after his father's death, was born in 356 BC in the capital city of Pella. Extraordinary events surrounding Alexander's birth and rumors about his father being Zeus had made him mysterious since birth. Alexander, characterized by his curious and daring nature from childhood, demonstrated his future as a ruler with his intelligence and leadership qualities. At the age of 13, his father, Second Philip, invited Aristotle, the most famous scholar and philosopher of the time, to Pella for Alexander's education in logic, philosophy, medicine, art, and geography. Upon his father's death, Alexander ascended to the throne and set his sights on the Persian Empire. In 334 BC, Alexander set out with his army towards the Straits. Alexander's army consisted of troops from Macedon, Thrace, the Nile countries, and many Greek cities. The composition of the army was 4,100 infantry, 6,100 cavalry, and 120 armored vehicles. Meanwhile, the Persian Empire, though seemingly powerful, was actually experiencing many internal conflicts. Conspiracies and assassinations in governance caused many difficulties for the rulers. Taking advantage of this situation, after crossing the straits with his armies, Alexander encountered the first Persian resistance in what is now Biga. The Persian army, consisting of mercenaries and paid Greek soldiers, quickly disintegrated in the face of Alexander's heavily armored cavalry, suffering a major defeat. After securing his first victory, Alexander continued his advance from the western Anatolian shores southward. As he passed through coastal cities, they all submitted to Alexander, agreeing to pay the same tribute they had paid to the Persians. However, the first city to resist Alexander was the present-day city of Bodrum. After occupying Bodrum within 24 hours, he continued his journey, swiftly capturing all the cities along the southern Anatolian coast. Proceeding inland, he swiftly captured the cities of Cilicia. But due to illness, he had to take a break in Cilicia for a while. When he recovered, he resumed his journey through Persian territories and entered Syria from the northwest. Upon hearing that a larger army awaited him at Issus, he turned back. In 333 BC, when these two great armies faced each other, Alexander swiftly launched his cavalry against the enemy, quickly destroying the left wing of the Persian army, and after this success, he swiftly attacked the center where Third Darius was located. Seeing Alexander's speed, the Persian soldiers suddenly abandoned the battle and started to flee, realizing they would be decisively defeated. Third Darius, realizing he would be defeated, abandoned his wife, daughter, mother, and loot on the battlefield and fled. At the end of the battle, Alexander not only achieved a great victory, but also captured Third Darius's family. Despite Third Darius offering 260 tons of gold to Alexander in exchange for his family's return, Alexander refused, but he provided servants to ensure their comfort. Embarking on a campaign along the eastern Mediterranean coast, Alexander captured most cities without resistance. However, the strongest among these cities, Tyre, did not surrender to Alexander. Employing the most advanced siege techniques of the time, Alexander eventually captured Tyre after a long siege. Continuing his journey, Alexander entered Palestine and then advanced southward into Egypt in the late 332 BC. The Egyptians welcomed Alexander as a liberator, and Egyptian priests proclaimed him as the deity Zeus Ammon, following which Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, which would later become the capital of Egypt. After spending a year in Egypt, Alexander proceeded eastward towards northern Mesopotamia. Meanwhile, 3rd Darius made a final effort to gather a massive army to confront Alexander. When the two armies clashed in northern Mesopotamia, the battle became one of the bloodiest and most fiercely contested in history. After suffering a major defeat, Darius fled the battlefield and crossed into Iran, losing his entire army of 250,000 men. Meanwhile, Alexander advanced to Gaugamela, capturing the Persian royal city of Susa and seizing the immense imperial treasures there. Without further delay, Alexander marched to the Persian Empire's capital, Persepolis, and took control of it. After capturing the capital without resistance, Alexander stayed in Persepolis for about 5 months before resuming his pursuit of 3rd Darius. However, during this time, Darius was captured by his own commanders, imprisoned, and then killed. Upon reaching the west, Alexander buried the remains of the deceased king in a magnificent ceremony, declaring himself the sole ruler of the entire Persian Empire. Unable to convince his soldiers, who were weary of endless campaigns far from their homes and families, Alexander decided to return. Initially moving southward with his army, Alexander attempted to alleviate his disappointment by massacring the tribes he encountered in India. Upon returning to the heart of his kingdom, he began to behave like a Persian king, exerting pressure on Greek cities and demanding to be treated as a godlike king. He imprisoned or executed those who opposed him, drawing criticism from both the people and the scholars of the time. By 323 BC, as plans were made for a campaign in Arabia, Alexander suddenly fell ill and took to his bed. In a very short time, on June 10, 323 BC, at the age of 33, he succumbed to a fever and excessive drinking. Following Alexander's death, his generals vied for the throne he left behind. However, this struggle led to the fragmentation of Alexander's short-lived empire. The empire was divided into 4 parts among Karanumeneos, Elios, Serikaz, and Cassander, never regaining its former power. The Macedonian Kingdom, once the conqueror of the Persians, was invaded and destroyed by the Roman Empire in 148 BC.